This is the Rapsodo Baseball Podcast. Thanks for joining us and welcome back. BP, good to be here with you, man.
Yeah, man, good to be back.
Absolutely. We're excited to bring you guys the podcast, kind of a continuation from the Rapsodo Baseball Podcast that we had before with new guests. Kind of a new format a little bit, but the same host with Brian and myself bringing it. But we do want to introduce one other guy. BP, go ahead.
Yeah, so really excited to bring on some more Rapsodo staff. So we'll have Matt Cochran joining us from the Rapsodo marketing team. So Matt, man, really excited to have you on the Rapsodo podcast.
Yeah, glad I could hop on and join you guys. I'll try to do my best to kind of keep you guys on tracks. I know things can get a little wild if no one's here to chaperone. So that's kind of what I'll do. But yeah, just looking forward to it. Like BP said, I'm on the marketing side, kind of handle partnerships and social media. So looking forward to kind of getting this thing going again. And we're going to have some great stuff for you guys. So thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, Matt's going to be kind of the magic behind the scenes. And like you said, trying to keep us wrangled in a little bit. Easier job than said. But, we're excited to kind of bring him and another voice to be able to come on from the Rapsodo side. Also, though, exciting, we're going to kick it off with a bang, I guess, with this first guest that we have today. We got Rob Friedman, pitching ninja.
Yeah, really perfect timing. As this comes out, we've had baseball now for a couple of weeks. So really the perfect guy from the industry as a guy that everyone loves, Rob Friedman and Pitching Ninja. So really excited for that. And also as the podcast, as we come out with these episodes, we're excited to have some big league players, probably some big league coaches. Really excited about the guests this go around to talk the Rapsodo data, just talk baseball, talk sports. So really excited to get it back going.
Yeah, for sure. Rob, crazy enough, we were talking about it in the lead up to this as BP and I were just kind of chatting. He was the first individual, so not like a high school, college, academy, whatever, individual user that actually bought a Rapsodo device. Maybe like 8+ years ago, and he bought it for his son down in the basement. As he, that it's kind of well popular kind of story, and talked about his son went on to play at Georgia Tech. But from that, he bought it, put it in his basement. I remember some of those early calls with him. It was kind of cool for us to see that happening because it was a kind of a new transition into a different market that we had not gotten into. But longtime user, friend, and then obviously what he's done, in parallel during that time has been insane with the growth of what he's had from podcasts to MLB to everything that he's done. So we'll get to touch in on that. Some of the stuff that he was doing in spring training, some of the stuff that he has maybe some predictions for the year. We'll get in and touch on some of that stuff. Super, super knowledgeable guy. Love to pick his brain and hear what that is. And then we'll get into a little bit of NIL stuff, which we'll also be able to kind of run through some of that going on this year as Rapsodo has kind of dipped our toe into the NIL market. It's something Matt's going to be a big proponent of, as it's kind of his baby, something he's been working on. So excited to kind of hear a little bit more on that throughout this, not only this episode, but future episodes that we're going to be doing. We'll definitely touch a little bit more in depth on some of those guys as well. All right, well, welcome to the Rapsodo Baseball Podcast. Today, we're excited to have on kind of friend of the program, friend of the show, and somebody that Brian and I are thankful we get to call friend as well, the pitching ninja himself, Rob Friedman. Rob, thanks for joining us.
It's always my pleasure to talk to y'all.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah,
we're
thanks.
Getting stuff kicked off. BP, why don't you kind of get us rolling?
Yeah. So Rob, like we were talking before, kind of the perfect time to bring on the pitching ninja with the first week of baseball being back. Our favorite time of year at Rapsodo and a lot of baseball fans out there. Saw some really good content from spring training. If it's okay, would love to start there. Saw you were with some interviews with the different complexes. Can we start there? What was spring training like? Do you have some good
spring
visits?
Training was great. Like, I am so used to going to Florida for spring training, being an East Coast guy, but decided to switch it up and head on out to Arizona this spring training. It was a lot of fun. I shared a house with Michael Fisher from Codify, who works with a lot of pro pitchers, but hung out a lot with the Mariners. Were fantastic. I considered them the best pitching staff in the major leagues, but also got to see Yamamoto's first outing in the spring, sat right behind home plate for it. That was great. Strangely, out of nowhere, got invited over Joe Kelly's house for pizza with him and Blake Trinan, which was
Awesome.
crazy, but yeah, it was really neat. And then had Jimmy Herget and Carson Fulmer come over to the house and hang out for a little bit too. And I was the bartender, which is always a lot of fun.
Nice.
All right. Sounds like we've been doing spring training wrong this whole time, Seth, because we're usually in there seeing the clubs, missing out on the parties. So we'll have to go with Rob next year.
Yeah, for real. We missed out. There is something special, though, about Arizona and the fact that, man, you could hit 3 to 4 clubs in a day with the proximity of everybody being there. And it's just sort of like everywhere you go, it's kind of electric. It's a baseball town for that sort of, month and a half or whatever that's going on. It's a lot of fun.
Do you find that they're more friendly or something in Arizona than in Florida, or some? Maybe it's the teams being closer together. Maybe it's the West Coast vibe. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's pot being legal.
Maybe all the above.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
all
all
of
of
the
the
above.
above.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
it
think there
is.
might be some. Oh, sorry, Seth.
Yeah, no, it is something that, like, they really are set up well. And I think the fact that they're so close that everybody is kind of used to having people around the whole season, and in Florida maybe not as much of the attraction. So I think some of the locals, maybe it's kind of an annoyance for them in Florida versus, it's something that people look forward to in Arizona. But it's fun. There's great setups in both locations for sure.
Yeah, I would say we had. I mean, I had a blast having not been out there for spring training. I thought it was a ton of fun. Everybody was great. I plan to go back next year and actually making it maybe even more of an event. Like, I don't know, grilling out steaks or something, and just having folks come over and having a big party out of it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Like we talked about before, we make the rounds every year, working with all the MLB clubs. So we usually spend a week and a half in Florida, maybe just a week in Arizona because of the proximity that Seth talked about. But yeah, just talking about some of those complexes. You already were talking about Peoria with the Mariners. We've been there many times. But man, some of those complexes like Camelback and Goodyear, they're just beautiful. I really, what's one of my favorite things is how different the states are. Because sometimes in Florida, you get that old, like the movie Major League vibe, where some of the complexes have been there a little longer, and it's kind of that nostalgia. And then in Goodyear, you see like the more modern, like Goodyear at the Reds and Guardians, Camelback, Dodgers, and White Sox, like I mentioned, just kind of immaculate. So I really enjoy each year kind of seeing the different level, like different complexes of baseball and from the different states.
I totally agree. And I had spent a lot of time in Florida touring all those facilities back in the perfect game days when all the you have all those
Oh, yeah.
tournaments sites and you're going to JetBlue and wherever. And you get a real good feel of it without fans, a ton of fans. It's fewer fans during those things, but you still get a lot. And yeah, they're great stadiums there. It seemed like more of a hike between stadiums in Florida than it does in Arizona as well. So, but both are great. Like,
Yeah.
it's baseball, right? Like, how bad could it be?
Yeah, that's true. One of the things that you did so well on the podcast that you were doing with Momentum, and then kind of carry that over, and you're kind of known for the pitching grips, and obviously we're able to do that a lot in spring training. Before we get into like individual guys, maybe some of those combos that you have, just what made that one of the things you kind of like honed in on? Obviously, it's something people care a lot about because it's been so successful. But what made that for you something that you thought would be kind of a unique combo that you could have with players?
Yeah, I think the big thing was number one, pitchers had asked for it. Like, they love hearing from other pitchers. And it's not just like, I'm always surprised how many young guys coming up, like high school guys, do not watch these videos to learn from pro guys, but the pro guys all watch them. Like, all of them are saying, oh, yeah, I took this from your interview with Gosman. I took this from your interview with Darvish, whatever it is. People, pro guys love learning this stuff. And it just seems like there should be more commitment for me out of high school guys, because that's really why I do it, is to kind of pass the knowledge of the game down. I know a lot of people struggle for finances, like you're going to all these travel tournaments, whatever it is. It can be expensive, and pitching lessons and stuff. And why not hear from the absolute best how they do what they do versus, your local pitching coach. It's great to have a local pitching coach, but don't get me wrong. But being able to learn from the absolute best directly from them without it being passed through a middleman, I always think is a good deal.
Yeah, definitely. And we talked about this before, Rob, but Seth and I, we both pitched in college. My last couple years were like 2016 before joining Rapsodo. And the whole pitching staff, I played at a D3 in Indiana. We played at Anderson, and we all followed Pitching Ninja to watch the fun clips when it was coming out. You make it so entertaining to where it's not just, hey, raw numbers of this is the spin direction, this is the vertical horizontal break. No, it's nice big text. It's look at this nasty pitch. It speaks the language. I think that's one thing I've always really appreciated, where you can just sit there and scroll through your videos, and it's truly entertainment, but also, like you just said, the best pitchers in the world can learn from it. Like, kind of looking at, how about that dude with that Australian left-handed curveball?
Yeah.
Who would grip the ball like that? And learning from your account, maybe a kid tries and finds success with it.
Totally agree. And I guess that's the thing. Like, I can go as deep as anybody wants with numbers and stuff, but there's not supposed to be math in baseball for some guys. Like, sometimes you want to avoid it. Like, I think some people, general fans, or people that don't even understand baseball can look at a filthy pitch and say, oh my God, this sport's impossible. Or hitting is so hard, or whatever it is they take from it, or they just think it's cool. And if you give them just pure numbers, what do they do with that? Like they're going to sit there and go, okay, is 800 RPMs high or low? What does that even mean? So I try to do both, but I err on the side of trying to broaden the appeal of the sport visually. I think a lot of people are visual learners, without making it too, it's like infotainment is kind of the mix, right? Like you're taking information combined with entertainment is what I'm trying to do.
Right. And when you take, those pitch tunneling where you actually truly see the overlay of what the different pitches do, I think it's pretty good evidence that hitting a baseball may be the hardest thing to do in sports. So it's pretty eye-opening too, because the game's sped up with the pitch clock, but you're still seeing a pitch every 10, 15 seconds. But when you have the overlay, it's like, man, this curveball, like it really has that much movement on the same plane and they take off. Pretty crazy to see.
Yeah, a lot of people have said, Pitching Ninja isn't even a pitching account. It's more of a hitting account because it gets fans to lay off hitters. Like, this is really impossible. And now they sit at a stadium, they don't yell at hitters like, what are you swinging at? They're going, oh, it's probably tunneled with a fastball that, like, yes.
Yeah, fans may appreciate a 270 batting average a little bit more.
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing. We see it more and more, and hopefully Rapsodo's been a small part of that, but more and more as data's come on, the fact that guys are really able to not only tunnel like how pitches are starting, but the end result of saying, okay, if this pitch is moving in this direction, what's that sort of separation I can create? And when you show the overlay of two pitches that have this complete opposite movement level, and we're talking, 20 plus, 25 plus inches of movement on some of these pitches both ways, it's just, it is a little like, what are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think y'all have done a great job of educating the masses with a reasonably priced product that, high school kids could get. If you're a motivated parent, you buy one and you can help your high school kid develop his arsenal and understand the language that they speak in college, but especially at college and pro levels. I mean, just think back in the day, we had to guess how much pitches were moving, like that's nasty or that's not nasty or that didn't break, but now we know. And it's so much better to know than to just guess because you can repeat it better if you know. Versus if you guess, you're just relying on some dude, your catcher or whoever said, yeah, that was great. I don't know. I mean, I think I'd rather have a lot of science involved in it with the art. I mean, there is an art to pitching, obviously, too. It's not just about numbers. It's deception, other stuff, just mental game. So many things go into pitching, but at least we're taking something now that even as a kid, as a high school kid, you can compare your stuff against the pros because you can get your metrics. You don't need a $200,000 facility to do it.
Definitely.
Yeah, Rob, real quick. I know so Pro 3.0 has introduced seam orientation. Do you see a lot of guys kind of incorporating that yet, or is it still fairly new to them?
You know what? More than you would think, especially among pros, they now are understanding what that means and why their pitches move the way they do, even if their spin rate isn't high. It's really about the seam orientation, and they're developing. Especially, I've heard change-ups and stuff where guys are not able to pronate, but they're able to get movement because of seam orientation. So I think most folks are understanding that, and it is huge. Like that is the biggest thing in the game. And it's one of those things that I have had a small part in bringing to it because like Barton Smith, who did the whole seam shifted wake, was toiling away in Utah, wrote a paper, and me being the anal dude that I am was scouring the internet for stuff on two seamers and laminar flow back in the day. And I said, dude, you're saying two seamers move for this reason, but Driveline saying it for another reason. What do you got? And we started talking and I'm like, dude, this is big. So I tweeted him out and then all of a sudden everything just took off. And later the seam shifted wake concept took play. And I was like, somebody's going to hire this dude. I think I actually tweeted, I said, my prediction for the year is somebody's going to hire this dude. A team's going to get him. And he did end up getting hired by a team. So that was very early on. And I think it's fantastic that the game was around for so long. And we just discovered something new about the way pitches move. Like, how could that possibly be?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. we'd have to bring it up too. So we'd worked with Barton, and so one of the experts at the Rapsodo office, John Garrett, we'll have to shout him out. He was one of Barton's students at Utah State, and actually did his thesis on seam orientation, seam shifted wake. He speaks at Sabre every year on Rapsodo's behalf. And, just a year and a half into starting Rapsodo, he got our seam orientation, seam shifted weight metrics put into Rapsodo. And just the conversations that we can have now at the MLB winter meetings, at spring training in the fall, it really is what people want to learn about. And I would love to talk about more, but it's just amazing to see the clubs on such different levels with it. There's some that are like, we know it. And there's some that are like, this is what we want to do with it. And that's one of my favorite things in the conversations. They never want to, spill the secrets. But that's a cool thing too, is just the clubs and players' knowledge of the analytic departments, their thoughts on seam orientation, seam shifted wake, and how it truly can develop players.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and it does separate teams. I mean, you're seeing some teams with a ton of knowledge being able to develop pitchers at a much higher rate because of that. It's one of many metrics you can use, but it's an important one. And the more you understand as a pitching coach versus saying this is magic or these are numbers, I don't like it. You remember how much struggle there was early on where people were like, they don't like technology. Coaches didn't like technology, didn't want to do all this stuff. They're like, this is science and we're going to do it the way I learned it. And those coaches tended to fall by the wayside because they didn't keep up with technology. Technology wins in the end. It just always does. And I love the fact that you guys keep iterating and adding new things. I think it's really important to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, we appreciate that. It's kind of funny. We got bloodied and bruised maybe this first 2 to 3 spring trainings. We'd come down and try to educate people, and sad but true. There's a lot of those coaches that just aren't there anymore. That the new kind of cream kind of rose to the crop. But then you also have those coaches that you had to give a lot of credit for, reinvented themselves, went in the off season and started using the technology. So it's cool to see some of those guys that BP and I've been working with for almost like a decade now of them kind of using the tech, learning it, and really cool to see guys. I know I want to shout out BP a little bit here, but the guys that are going from the lower levels that are getting opportunities now because they're experts with some of this stuff. BP, I don't know if you want to kind of share your story about the high school coach that just got pulled up.
Yeah, we for the Marlins, we actually had they kind of had some new staff come into the Miami Marlins organization, and they reached out to us at Rapsodo and just asked, who have you worked with years that has some coaching experience? They can speak the language, they're passionate about it, but they know the data. That's important to us in growing. And actually a high school coach out of Indianapolis, Shelbyville High School, Royce Carlton, who we've known since, I guess, 2017, 18, got a rookie pitching job coach there down in Jupiter, which is pretty cool because going from coaching high school ball in Indiana, well, that's where I grew up playing ball. It's not Texas, it's not Florida. But then going to the Marlins from high school to pro ball, just being able to speak the language and have a passion for the tech and growing players got him a good opportunity. And it's really cool to see, and great guy.
You make a really good point, because part of what I've always been about is, undiscovered players and helping them be seen. But it's the same thing with coaches. Like back in the day, you'd have to have played at a high level to be a pitching coach. Like they just assumed if you're a good pitcher, you can coach it. That's not necessarily true. If you can dig into stuff, even if you didn't pitch at a high level, learning everything there is to learn about something, and being able to communicate it and know what's important, what's not important, get the best out of your players, that's what's important. That's coaching. And to me, this technology's opened up gigs for people that would never have gotten a chance because they can shine in different ways.
Yeah, we can. Honestly, it's hard for us to keep like our analytic interns because they get picked up so quick. We've had staff over the years go to the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Nationals, the Red Sox, just pretty much any team you can name it that have spent some time at Rapsodo, gotten really good at the data and analytics. They get picked up pretty quick with that in their resume, which is awesome, and we like to see that.
So that's a shameless job opening plug for y'all. So
always.
Yeah.
It's a revolving door.
Need analytics.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a job in the analytics department of any company,
call
choose
Rapsodo. Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool though too, because a lot of the coaches take after you, and they're posting these videos of their guys just doing like tunneling and pitch overlays and showing that, and then they're just basically that's their kind of calling card, and then that's what's getting them a lot of views, and a lot of people are seeing it. So the more and more people are putting out there, the more kind of that is coming back to them, and opportunities are there, and it's a fun time to be involved in baseball for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we're just one big community, and I think most folks are nice about it. it too. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing about the baseball community. There are a lot of good people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a good point. I think
Yeah.
we'd be remiss too if we didn't talk. We talked about the start of the season, but also then we kind of dipped our toe into NIL this year, and then the new guys that are going to be coming into the majors with the draft coming up. So a few of the guys we'd love to just kind of pick your brain on. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to kind of look at them, but some of the pitchers we have are going to be, I'll let BP kind of dive in on some of them. But we got Jack and Chase and Brody, and then a couple other hitters as well. We got to give those guys love too. But I
You
mean,
don't
it's
have to
been
give
fun.
hitters love. You don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Screw
we got
hitters.
Matt
Pitching
on the call.
first.
Matt would be mad if we didn't.
Yeah. Got
Yeah.
to show them
Yeah, I
all
think
love.
having
They're all
Matt
our
kick that
children.
off. Yeah, Matt's what
Yeah.
he's done. Matt Cochran's going to be on the podcast with us, which we're so excited to have him as we bring it back. Has really crushed the NIL with Rapsodo. Matt, would love if you could bring up those guys that Seth mentioned. It's been so cool to see their content and them crushing in the college this season.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we did the shoot in December, but we had the pitcher wise Chase Burns, Brody Brecht, and Jack Caglione, and Chase is leading, I think, D1 baseball in strikeouts. Brody's right up there as well, and then Jack doesn't start as much since he's a two-way player, but he's also dominating on the mound too. So Rob, just kind of wanted to pick your brain on those guys and kind of what you've seen from them and kind of what you see in the upcoming draft with them too.
Well, the thing I love about Jack Caglione is number one, Shohei laid the template, right? For a guy like him.
Absolutely.
Dude can top out at 99 with a wicked changeup. And I think that his changeup is maybe underrated. Like I don't see anybody doing anything with it as far as hitters. So he's become a lot more crafty in addition to just being a power guy. Like I thought of him more as a thrower last year, and I see a lot more dialed in command. And I think if anybody can be a two-way guy, he's got to be it. And I think fans want to see more of that.
Yeah.
So big arm, big dude. Love the way he plays. A competitor. Not afraid to trash talk you, which I love. Like, give me all of that. That's what the sport's about. It's competitiveness. So love that dude. Chase Burns is the most electric pitcher I've seen in college this year by a good bit.
Yeah.
Not only is 101 mile an hour fastball, but that slider, that slider is a major league plus slider today. He could get hitters out today without a doubt in major leagues. Another guy who's not afraid to be electric, fist pump, K strut off the mound, just high level stuff. And I'd see him going, like if I'm picking a pitcher, he's probably the first guy I pick. And Brody Brecht, I think I haven't seen him as much. So I've seen his electric arm. I know he throws gas. I know he's got a nasty slider, but I haven't seen enough of him to make a judgment. My assumption is that he's got a huge upside. I mean, I know he's a converted football player.
Yeah.
I love multi-sport athletes. Very physical. Definitely has a great arm. I can see him pitching for a long, long time. A guy I love to watch. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, those games are not broadcast very much. You have to get the Big Ten network, and I'm subscribed to a million different things. And I'd only be subscribing basically to see him. So I have subscribed for a couple of games just to see him. But we'll see.
Yeah.
But I love that dude. And another guy I'm high on is Hagen Smith. I think he's outstanding and just another competitor, lefty, throws gas, but also can pitch. Great command, great mound presence. Really love his stuff.
Yeah, a lot of fun guys coming out for sure. It's going to be interesting to see what the draft ends up looking like.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then kind of jumping over to, I know you got some interviews today, Rob, but we got to talk a little bit on the MLB side. If we're talking like some Cy Youngs you like, I would say you're probably one of the most knowledgeable pitching guys in the world. So we're looking for Cy Youngs, AL, NL, some sleepers. Kind of what are we thinking there for this year? Some standout guys.
So my Cy Young picks are pretty much chalk. Like I hate to do it, but Spencer Strider in the NL, I'm still going like, yeah, I mean, I have to. Like he's electric, adding new pitches. That curveball really pairs well with his fastball and gives hitters one more thing to think about. Hitters still sell out. He's going to give up his bombs because hitters are hunting fastballs. They're expecting it, but throwing it fewer times, even though his fastball is really good, no matter what, a major league hitter, if they're guessing right, they're going to be able to hit it. But if you give them more things to think about, they're going to see a fastball fewer times. And then they can't just guess slider or fastball. Now they have the curveball and then occasionally a changeup thrown in. So I really like him. Corbin Burns is just a stud. Like he's a Cy Young candidate every year. Now in the AL, love that. I think he's extra motivated to have a great season. I thought last season he ended it really well, but started slow because of the whole arbitration thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing him have a monster year. On a dark horse side, there's a number of guys. I love Grayson Rodriguez. I think he is, that changeup is, oh my God, ridiculous. Bobby Miller, another guy who I think has a ridiculous changeup and also throws gas. Both these guys throw flames, but also have just nasty stuff and know where it's going generally too. Like Miller's got surprisingly good command. You have guys like, I don't know if he's a dark horse or not because he's won a Cy Young award, but Shane Bieber with his velo
I like
bump.
that one.
Yeah, with his velo bump coming into this year and knowing, talk about a dude who knows how to pitch. Like he could get by with less velocity than he does, like he did last year, and still do really well. But coming in with a little bit more velo makes all his stuff play better. I saw him throwing changeups, his fastball speed from last year. So that's how much his velo's increased and his command's still there. I like him. And then you have guys like Tarek Skubal. I don't even know if he's a dark horse. Like he should be a favorite. Nasty stuff. Cole Reagan's nasty stuff. So, those guys, I'm not sure it's fair to call them dark horses because I would have them as favorites, and everybody should keep an eye on. If you don't know who those guys are, learn today.
Yeah, those are some good names for sure. And you already brought up the Seattle staff. I mean, there's some studs there that you spent time with in Peoria. Definitely like a Luis Castillo, definitely could rattle off a Cy Young at any time. You mentioned the Baltimore guys. Exciting town. They're playing so well with Rodriguez and Burns. I think it's some great guys to keep an eye on for baseball fans out there.
Yeah, you know who I left out? Looking at Logan Gilbert's splitter now, it's one of the 7 wonders of the world, or at least the pitching world. He gets such a low spin rate on that thing. I interviewed him while I was in Arizona. I needed a freaking step ladder to talk to him. He's just gigantic. His hands are monstrous, and he can grip that splitter and just take all the spin off it. I don't even know if he knows how good that pitch is. It's just crazy good. And, then you had Kirby, the ultimate command guy who's got nasty stuff, and Castillo. That team is really good. And all 3 of those guys could be Cy Young contenders.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely. Hey, before we get out of here, we definitely want to bring up too a new thing that you got in the works, and 10 out of 10 name for sure with the Baseball Dojo. So excited about that. We've already been subscribers and listeners, but tell us a little bit about that. What can people kind of expect from that new podcast from you?
We are going to be doing it every week. It's me, Michael Fisher from Codify, and Will, my right-hand guy, trying to bring in folks on. This week's guest is Cole Reagans. Next week's guest is Bobby Miller, but I plan to bring on folks, have a lead out to Pedro, hopefully getting him on. He'd be a good guest. Like I wouldn't have to say a word, right? Like I could just start like, this is Pedro Martinez, go. And he would just eat up my whole hour and do fantastic. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So basically bringing like what we see each week along with a great guest. And we'll have guest co-hosts too. It's a lot of fun. Like I'm used to doing visual content. So it's great to just do pure audio stuff, and they're longer form. So we're doing, hour or two. You got an hour or two of listening to baseball stuff. Yeah. Why not? Who doesn't love that?
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, Rob, thank you again for joining us. We know you're a busy guy, so appreciate you making time. Best of luck with everything you have in the works moving forward. Can't wait to see you. Hopefully we can make the spring training party next year as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Man. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
We should do like a joint Rapsodo pitching ninja thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'll camp out down there all spring.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. Bigger house. Let's make it happen.
Oh yeah, we can rent. I saw some monster houses there. I'm all game.
On a golf course, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we're talking.
Totally. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks,
Rob.
Right. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. All right. Thanks to Rob for joining us on the relaunch of the podcast interview. Great stuff from him. Just seeing where he was in spring training, get his, the master of the minds when it comes to pitching, get his Cy Young awards. But yeah, wanted to kind of pitch it to you guys and see if you wanted to follow up Rob and give your kind of Cy Young predictions for the year. What do you guys got?
Sure, we'll make it official, make it public. BP, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, I think I've got to be kind of boring, but following Rob's footsteps, which I guess is not really a bad thing with everything he knows on the pitching side. But Spencer Strider in Atlanta, I mean, just dominant arm on a dominant team. So have to go there on the NL. See, he's a big favorite on the NL side. And then also, too, on the AL side, another exciting team. The Baltimore Orioles have just been up and coming. Kind of feels like it could possibly be their year. Corbin Burns was a stud in Milwaukee. But winning divisions there, but just the excitement in Baltimore, I think he's just going to have an awesome year in Baltimore. So I got to go Corbin Burns. Hopefully I didn't steal yours. I know we talked about those with Rob, but what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, you know what? We're we're just too similar on that one. That was kind of where I was going. I got to pick new ones because I'm not going to go chalk. I will be a little bit of a homer, and go with it on the NL side. I'm going to stick with Quadzilla himself and go with Strider. Obviously, grew up a Braves fan, and so I watch and follow them a lot. And he's a guy that he's an easy kind of chalk pick to do there. And Corbin was one of the guys that obviously he's not like under the radar by any means, but he's a guy that's fun and a fun guy to watch on that one. So if I had to pick somebody new and somebody different besides him and who we talked through, I really love the Shane Bieber pick. He's been fun to watch. He's getting a lot of coverage, a lot of juice. If he can come back and I don't want to say come back, but if he can kind of continue the added bump with some of the numbers that he's seeing, I think he's going to be a fun guy to watch. He was fun whenever he got the news. I remember a lot of coverage on that with that going down. So he's a fun guy to be able to watch there. So I think I'll go with those two guys, and we'll see what they have for the year. But I think it's a good time, in general, from a pitching standpoint. There are so many guys that are just absolutely filthy that it's kind of a wide open race. Maybe a little bit more top heavy with Spencer in the NL, but it's kind of wide open right now with a lot of great arms in the league.
Yeah, I'll tell you another guy too that we didn't touch with Rob, but kind of a great arm in the league, but a bit of a wild card for me. Aaron Nola. It just feels like again with the theme of good ball clubs. I just feel like Philadelphia has some unfinished business recently. Such a good lineup, is going to win a lot of games. But I like Aaron Nola too to be in that mix of just like not a top of the radar Spencer Strider, but an arm that's been a stud for a long time. I could see somebody like that sneaking into the NL race as well.
Yeah, obviously a great team, starting off a little bit slow to start the year, but I mean, geez, we're only 4 or 5 games in right now as we're recording this, so tons and tons of games left in the season for those guys to turn around, and they get hot at the right time of the year, anyways. It seems like they always do. So that they're a good team, a good guy to kind of get behind. So that's great. Well, man, BP, it's fun to get back. Matt, excited to have you joining. Again, I know we kind of shout out the socials, but appreciate everybody following along. You can find us, and please give us a follow, give us a like, give us a share. We appreciate everybody's time. Thanks for listening. And this has been the Rapsodo Baseball Podcast.